Hi, welcome. My name's Lynn Gaddis Walling with Yoga Me Fit live at Savannah Yoga Bar with Lynn McSweeney. We're here to do a demonstration for diaphragmatic breathing and how that works in unison with the pelvic floor. So we're going to start off with Lynn bringing her hands to her rib cage. And what she wants to do, imagine that your diaphragm is like this big muscle, which it is, that sits inside the rib cage, like an upside down dinner plate or bowl. And what you're trying to do is expand the rib cage where it kind of flares out into the hands on the inhale breath. And then as you exhale, releasing all of the air out of the belly. We'll do 2 more rounds. And while she's doing this, she's trying to minimize the breath in the upper chest and the lower belly so that it stays concentrated through this center area. That's true diaphragmatic breathing when you can get less movement in the upper chest and belly. And then when she completes this last round, she's going to focus on the exhale. So I'm just teaching you ways that you can connect to your diaphragm muscle. Okay, now she's going to take her 2 peace fingers and place it right at the bottom of the breastbone where the 2 rib bones meet. Kind of there's like a little soft spot there. And on the exhale breath, she should feel when she empties all the air, like your fingers are being kind of sucked back in toward your spine as all the air empties. So she'll do 2 more rounds of that to see if she can connect to that sensation. So this is just helping you be able to feel what diaphragmatic breathing is and work on strengthening that muscle since it works in unison with the pelvic floor diaphragm. Because that'll be part of the beginning of the next exercise of how we find the pelvic floor. So the pelvic floor is very important as far as how we connect to our core and how we're able to access that area. And to think about the pelvic floor, you have to get in contact with the sensation. So there's a lot of people who go through life and don't even connect to their core muscles. So if you're not able to connect to your core muscles, you sure can't connect to your pelvic floor muscles. So if they're asleep, this is going to be a technique to help you wake those up and get some contact and sensation down there. I'll be doing a workshop here on April 15th. It's a Saturday from 11:30 to 1:30. You don't have to have pelvic floor dysfunction, but 1 in 5 Americans, statistically speaking, have pelvic floor dysfunction, so that can be whether you either have decreased or increased sensitivity, it can be weak, it can be tight, it can affect your sacroiliac joint here between the 2 hip bones, the coccyx, the tailbone. It can affect your hip joint, and it can also affect many things like your intestines, your bladder, your reproductive system. So it's a very important area to work on, whether you're just looking for ways of strengthening or stretching it. And just to give you another example of visualization, it attaches from the tailbone to the pubic bone and from sits bone to sits bone. So once we're looking for that sensation when you're breathing with the diaphragm between the anus and the genitals and trying to get that area to move down there. So I'm going to have you, Lynn, come onto your belly, face down, and you're going to stack your palms here. And then you're going to tuck your toes under, yep. And then you're going to lift your thighs off the ground. You're going to keep your pelvis on the ground, and you want to try to relax your glutes so you're not over tightening your glutes. Okay, so go back into that diaphragmatic breathing where you're breathing right through the rib cage here. And when you're breathing and you're accessing it, you can feel, since it does attach to the front ribs, the side ribs, the back ribs, at some point you should feel like you're breathing all the way circumferentially around the whole torso here. Now, as you begin to breathe, bring your awareness down to your pelvic floor. So focus on that area in the pelvis, and notice as you're breathing if you can feel any sensation. So how the diaphragm works is that when you're inhaling, you're taking the breath in. There's like a downward moving force of the diaphragm pushing downward. So you can feel like a sense that you're kind of stretching maybe or relaxing the pelvic floor. But on the exhalation, the diaphragm actually starts to move up to push the air out of your lungs, and simultaneously the pelvic floor also will move up. So that's what she's breathing to try to feel if she can connect to that sensation on the exhale breath if it's lifting. Okay, when you've completed this breath, relax your body. Just turn your head to one side and just take a moment to just observe your body. I'm just going to give her a little rock through the pelvis. It kind of feels good here. Kind of like your pelvis is, imagine like a bowl of water, and it's just kind of sloshing around like a pelvic bowl holding water. Okay, on the second round she's going to tuck her toes. She's going to lift her thighs again. Try to minimize the gripping of the gluteus muscles, the buttocks. And on her exhalation this time, she's going to try to extend out through her heels and pull up through the pelvis. So she'll go back to the diaphragmatic breathing, and then on the exhale breath, she'll try to extend through the legs and the heels, but lift, try to get something to lift. Try to get any connection to the pelvic floor that you can. Get the muscles to lift, get some type of sensation down there. And you're not like over efforting or straining, because the diaphragmatic breathing, the breath is not too shallow, it's not too deep, it's just a nice flow of the breath. So you want to continue with like not over efforting, but just creating just enough activation to feel that extension, and then trying to pull up toward the navel with the pelvic floor. Okay, do one more last cycle of breathing. And then she'll relax her body, turn your cheek to the other side, and just rest a moment. So this is one of the ways that you can start practicing this at home. If you're thinking that, well, hey, I've never thought about my pelvis in that way before. At the workshop, it will be easier if you can start, doing some of this. So when you get to the workshop, it will be better for you to move on and feel the pelvic floor in other postures and in other planes of the body. Okay, go ahead and push up on your hands and knees, and you can come back into seated. And then let's hear from Lynn if she was able to connect or not. And sometimes you're not able to connect, so it takes time. It is a practice.
I've done the workshop with Lynn before, and it's a great way to tap into that power. And yes, just focusing on inhaling, like not down into the belly, but not just up into the chest, and feeling that expansion and the connection between the breath all the way down to the pelvic floor.
So were you able to get some sensation in there?
Yes.
Okay, good. So if you start to practice this at home and you're like, I'm not feeling anything, just keep with the actions of trying to wake that area up, and it will awaken eventually. But I hope to see you here on Saturday, April 15th from 11:30 to 1:30. Thank you for being the model.
You're welcome.
All right.
And Lynn has a great DVD that will be on sale for $10, so you can do the practice at home.
Yes, we'll have a way because we can only retain so much at a workshop, so you'll have a DVD that you can go home and find ways of connecting to these different layers in the pelvic floor. Namaste.
Namaste.
Thank you.